The world is changed.
The musical landscape has changed. Once girls would issue playful finger-wagging warnings to their sweethearts not to sit under the apple tree with anyone else. Now they threaten to bludgeon them with baseball bats. But not all changes have been for the better. Change is neither a force for good nor a force for evil. Change is a neutral agent. It cares not for our feelings. It blessed us with rock and roll and cursed us with the boy band. It gave us the second golden age of death metal and sent the four horsemen of the hip-hop apocalypse, Lord Mumble, MC Trap, Lady TikTok, and Little Streams to destroy everything that was holy about this once great art form. In this video, we celebrate the rise and lament the fall of the greatest gift the winds of change ever bestowed on the shifting sands of music. I refer, of course, to the C90. The C90 represents the pinnacle of musical culture and technology. I will always have a soft spot for vinyl. Vinyl is a thing of beauty, but it is essentially a circle of melted plastic. It is also fragile, expensive, and playing it is akin to a ritual, like summoning a fucking demon. Storage is an issue. It's bulky, heavy, and a general pain in the ass. But look at this. It's not a lump of anything. It's an actual machine. It's compact, durable, and aesthetically pleasing. You can record over it. Storage is a non-issue. Throw it in a drawer. Leave them lying around in the car footwell or spilling out of the glove compartment. Give it to the cat to play with. It's no wonder they replaced vinyl. It's quite simply a superior product. But the cassette got superseded itself, first by the CD and then the MP3. And quite rightly, you might think. Digital music is clearly superior. Again, you'd be right, but sometimes superior isn't better. CDs and MP3s are superior because tapes degrade. This is about their only advantage. Well, good, I want my shit to degrade. We all degrade. I can't relate to a CD or an MP3 lasting forever. What the fuck is that alien shit? Music is temporal, so should its storage technology be. And for all MP3's inherent advantages, there's one thing they lack. There's no feeling of ownership. Buying an MP3 is a weird and uncanny experience that leaves you feeling strangely unsatisfied. The pinnacle of cassette technology is the invention of the C90. You can burn all the C60s and C120s in the world. Never cared for them. The C90 is the perfect length. 90 minutes generally allows you to fit an album on each side. CDs can't do that. And even if they could, there's no side 1 and there's no side 2. That's important. But the ability to stick an entire album on each side of a C90 is corollary. The true use case of the C90 is the mixtape. Now, the term mixtape has been hijacked over the years, particularly in hip-hop, where it now refers to a release somewhere between an EP and an album, a thrown-together release intended to keep any given artist's name on people's lips in between studio albums. When I'm referring to a mixtape, I am of course referring to a slung-together at-home collection of songs on a blank C90. Playlists before playlists, their superior forerunner. Because let's be fair, playlists suck. 99.99 something% of playlists that clog up Spotify's cloud storage like third arteries are absolute garbage, and why wouldn't they be? Making a playlist is the work of minutes, and with no time constraints there's no quality control. But mixtapes were an art form. To even consider making one, you had to have the hard copy, and given that a C90 could contain between 20 and 30 songs, you'd have to have something resembling a music collection, or you'd be repeating bands. I knew a guy who gave me a mixtape that had 3 songs from the same album. What a loser. Secondly, recording a mixtape involved time and patience. You had to line up the songs. You had to press play and record at the same time. You had to sit there and wait for the song to finish. Thirdly, dexterity was required. You won't always be presented with a song that ends cleanly, with a nice standard 2-second pause before the next. Sometimes they drone and fade out and the next song starts before the drone is quite finished. Missed it? Now you've got to go back and start again. Making mixtapes required steady hand surgery. Playlists require a shovel. Anyone can make a playlist. A 6-year-old can do it. Teenage girls can do it. Exhibit A is mislabeled Spotify playlists. Machine Head in death metal playlists. Avicii and Deadmau5 filed under dubstep. Some people should be banned from music. Mixtapes solved this. The C90 was a gatekeeper. Only owned 5 albums. Lacked the necessary passion and dedication to the cause to spend a few hours sitting, waiting and pressing buttons. GTFO. By virtue of all this, the fact that somebody had actually managed to make a mixtape meant that it was probably worth listening to. The many colors of mixtapes. I have used mixtapes for many purposes over the years.
The majority were for personal use, but I have also made extensive use of them in my missionary work. For example, attempting to convert a skeptical friend to the joys of French hip-hop, or silencing Hawkwind critics. They also serve an important purpose as a romantic outlet for clumsy teenage boys who would otherwise be unable to express their feelings to the girl they loved. Mixtapes can take many shapes and forms, but we can group them into two main categories. 1. Single artist compilations. Commercially released greatest hits compilations tend to be flawed. For a start, they may not always be up to date. Ideally, greatest hits compilations would only be released after a group has disbanded or died in an airplane crash, but they rarely are, instead released at random midpoints in an artist's career, when they change labels, or when an older song of theirs appears in a jeans advert. Track listing is also frequently a problem. Not always, granted. Bands with limited discographies, well, their greatest hits tend to choose themselves. Think of bands with longer careers. This is where problems start to arise. After all, who chooses the tracks? If it's a businessman in a suit and tie, we might be in trouble. These scumbags are concerned only with sales. When a label releases a greatest hits compilation, the first thought of any filthy studio exec worth his cocaine is going to be figuring out how they can flog their shitty compilation to fans who already own the source material on the actual albums. Common dirty tactics include live versions, new, inferior songs that they pressured the band to write for the purpose of the compilation, remixes, or archival material. Look at ZZ Top's greatest hits from 1992. From 18 songs we get 4 songs from Eliminator, one of which is a dance remix of Legs, 3 songs from Afterburner, 2 new songs, a cover of Viva Las Vegas and the other one Gun Love, which has no earthly business on the ZZ Top greatest hits, 2 songs from Recycler, nothing from ZZ Top's first album, nothing from Rio Grande Mud, 1 song from Tres Hombres, a remix, 1 song from Fandango, another remix, nothing from Tejas. Now, in 1992, ZZ Top were 10 albums into their career, and you can't please everyone, but it seems whoever slung this aberration together wasn't even trying. So what if the artist chooses the track listing? Bigger artists are indeed able to exert some degree of control over the track listing, possibly full control. R.E.M., for example, put their foot down over Shiny Happy People and stopped its inclusion on their greatest hits. Problem solved? Well, no. If studio executives are all objectivity and no heart, the artists are all heart and no objectivity, prone to choosing songs close to their hearts for personal reasons and may even ignore key songs because they don't like them. Robert Smith left Love Cats off the original pressing of Standing on a Beach. Discotheque does not appear on U2's 2006 singles collection. Perhaps the most brazen example is Huey Lewis's Time Flies, which does not contain Hip to Be Square, a song so catchy that most people don't listen to the lyrics, but they should. The best person to choose the track listing is clearly a fan, and the best medium for the collection is the mixtape. R.E.M., Neil Young, the Beatles, Bob Dylan are never going to be properly served by a standard 75-minute CD, and hence we are either going to end up with a single unsatisfying disc or an overcompensatory, unwieldy 4-disc retrospective. But 90 minutes is just about right. Off the top of my head, I can't think of a single artist who wouldn't be given a fair shake of the stick over 90 minutes. Okay, you won't get all your favourite album tracks on there, nothing's perfect, but the C90 is the closest thing we're ever going to get, and some time constraints are needed. A line has to be drawn somewhere. The Noble mixtape allows us to tailor the compilation. Not a fan of the Beatles' early material? Fine, start at Revolver. Don't like Queen's novelty records? Pretend they don't exist. A reverse chronological Ministry compilation so it sounds like they're eschewing their industrial thrash roots in favour of synth-pop? Only thing stopping you is the home taping is killing music police. 2. Multi-artist mixtapes. We can approach these compilations in a number of ways. Firstly, we can restrict the tape to a single genre, for example country, sub-genre, alt country, or related genres, blues, country and folk. Secondly, we can limit the mixtape not by genre but by theme. It could be a time period, a feel, a festival, driving music, running music, Halloween, love songs, wedding songs, soundtracks. I never went in for this kind of thing. It's a bit cutesy for me, too Tumblr. You go wild though. The final approach is to confine your mixtape to neither genre nor theme. Most of my personal use mixtapes fell into this category. When compiling, I operate by a mix of common sense and past experience. You can make your own rules. I've got some general ones. 1. Genre dissonance. The simple fact of the matter is that some genres don't play well with others. Classical music is an example, heavy metal is another, hip-hop can be tricky, electronic music is particularly troublesome. Take drum and bass for example. Jungle, neurofunk, jump up and liquid are just going to sound jarring next to each other. Conversely, darker styles of drum and bass like neurofunk might work together with certain forms of dubstep, meaning, in effect, that they are more comfortable crossing genre lines than staying in their lane. Dubstep and drum and bass might work together, but stick deep dubstep next to Berlin bunker techno followed by organic house. I don't know, it might work, but it probably won't. Experimenting is part of the fun. Occasionally you'll find songs from disparate genres that actually work well together. Another primary concern here is time period. Music went through something of a paradigm shift in the 50s and 60s. I've heard 1957 referred to as the year it all came together, but for me the modern era begins in 64 or 65. It's not just music, it's the music technology and production techniques. Stick Robert Johnson next to Led Zeppelin. They're not a million miles away stylistically, but the Johnson recordings simply belong in another era. Exceptions abound. Chuck Berry isn't going to poison any rock compilation. Neither will that Train Kept a Rolling one that everybody covers. There's a fine line between eclectic and jarring, and we want to walk that line. Examine this track list. Is this going to provide a positive listening experience? Possibly, you might think. They're all good songs, but that's all it is. A series of good songs. Put this on at a barbecue and folks are going to be giving you the side eye. It's dissonant, inconsistent and tonally all over the place. So, according to the Black Cassette music rules and regulations, I remove the classical, hip-hop and electronic. Then I replace the times they are a-changing and I Want to Hold Your Hand, 2 songs on the wrong side of my 64-65 line, and replace them with Subterranean Homesick Blues and Hey Bulldog, 2 songs on the right side of the line. Now we're left with 6 songs spanning 50-something years from new age to hardcore punk. Needs to be filled out, obviously, but I quite like the look of it. I could listen to this. Guillotine into Orinoco Flow might be pushing the bounds of acceptability, but we don't want to be too conservative, and some risks are good. See below. Okay, I just listened to it and actually it's seamless. Guillotine is tense and paranoid. I knew what was coming next and was excited to hear the transition, and Guillotine seemed to build that tension. When Enya kicked in, it was like extracting oneself from a souring drug deal being conducted by war veterans with PTSD and walking straight into a crystal healing ceremony. I tend to avoid longer songs as they overpower the mix. I generally avoid big songs, by which I mean overplayed massive songs, legacy songs. I wouldn't be sticking Losing My Religion or Hey Jude or White Rabbit on anything. This is the loosest rule. I just exercise caution. With a few basic ground rules and guidelines in place, we're good to go. Overthinking track listing and song flow is counterproductive. Sometimes the best combinations aren't obvious until played in context within the mixtape. This is the true beauty of the mixtape. Think about it like gestural action painting or ink in water photography or kaleidoscopes, where the final piece arises from chance rather than from precise planning. The artist is not planning where each splatter goes. The photographer has no control over the ink tendrils. You spin the kaleidoscope, and mixtapes are like that. When you listen back, you will hear things you didn't and couldn't have planned. Song transitions from artists separated by decades and rarely cross genre lines, flowing seamlessly together like they'd been written for this purpose. Groups of songs with little or nothing in common on paper that seem to form suites or movements. Hidden themes that run through the music. There is a kind of emergent beauty in a mixtape that arises from randomness, physics and natural systems rather than detailed human control of the compiler. This is my love letter to the mixtape. Please stay tuned for the next episode in which I will build a mixtape from scratch. Like and subscribe.